In this video, I'm going to be identifying and discussing 6 stellar cellar defenders. These wines will range in price from about $25 to $50 or so. There's 4 different countries and 5 different regions represented. And while they're mostly red wines, there is a white wine as well. So hopefully there should be something for everyone. Tignanello fans will want to pay close attention to this first cellar defender. This is a wine that a viewer actually reminded me about a few days ago in the comments to my Antinori Super Tuscan wine video. And then just a couple hours later, I was at the wine club and someone opened a bottle of this wine and shared it with me. So I knew that I had to discuss the Marchese Antinori Chianti Classico Reserva from the Tignanello vineyard in this video. This is a wine that is made from fruit from the Tignanello vineyard that does not go into the Tignanello bottling. Of course, now the Tignanello bottling sells for close to $150 per bottle, but this Chianti Classico Reserva, on average, will sell for about $50 a bottle in the United States, and if you shop around, you can definitely get it for $40 or even a little bit less. This wine is dominant in Sangiovese, but also includes a little bit of Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot. It's matured in a mix of French oak and Hungarian oak. It's a wine that will definitely improve with another couple years of bottle age, and it will cruise in the cellar for 12 to 15 years or more. It's definitely a highly acclaimed wine, and you can find the 2020 vintage on store shelves now. Clos de Papes is one of my favorite producers in Châteauneuf-du-Pape. Unfortunately, their flagship wine is now well more than $100 and continues to head north in price. And that wine also benefits from some substantial bottle aging before you enjoy it. So this next wine, which is also produced by Clos de Papes, is an excellent defender for the flagship Châteauneuf-du-Pape. Le Petit Vin d'Avril is a non-vintage red blend. It's a non-vintage because 2/3 of the fruit comes from the current vintage and the other third comes from the previous vintage. By including this fruit with additional age in it, the wine gains some additional complexity. The fruit for this wine comes from vines that are grown near the Rhone River. It's quite a blend, as it includes Grenache, Syrah, Mourvèdre, Carignan, Cinsault, and also some Bordeaux varietals. They mature about 1/3 of this wine in barrels. This is a wine that's ready with a pop and pour, and there's definitely no need to age it. It's incredibly approachable. It's an impressive wine that you can tell comes from a high-quality producer like Clos de Papes, but yet it sells for only about $25 per bottle, and undoubtedly even less than that in Europe. So if you enjoy Clos de Papes, you really can't go wrong with this wine. Iconic Spanish wine producer La Rioja Alta traces its roots way back to 1890. La Rioja Alta's wines are the result of traditional winemaking methods combined with modern state-of-the-art winemaking technology. La Rioja Alta specializes in red wines based primarily on Tempranillo, and it sources the fruit for these wines from some of the top sources in Rioja. La Rioja Alta controls every aspect of wine production. La Rioja Alta even crafts its own oak barrels to mature the wines, racks the wines by candlelight, and ages the wines for an extended period of time prior to release. So the next cellar defender is the Viña Arana Gran Reserva. This wine used to be a Reserva until 2011. Around that time, La Rioja Alta discovered that certain strong vintages of this wine can make it behave more like a Gran Reserva, and somewhat in the style of the 904. And so more recently, this has been a Gran Reserva. The 2015 is on store shelves now and is highly acclaimed. This wine sells for about $50 a bottle. It's 95% Tempranillo and 5% Graciano. It's very likely that you could also find the 2014 vintage of this wine, which I also recommend, and which may even be a little bit less expensive. This is a wine that's made in a little bit more of a modern style than some of the other La Rioja Alta Gran Reservas. It has a higher percentage of new oak, for example. This is a full-bodied wine with fine tannins, ample acidity, and a silky structure. You can definitely enjoy this wine now, but I was able to detect a substantial amount of oak influence. And so if you prefer to wait for that oak to become integrated, I would definitely give it a couple more years. And this is certainly one that you can age for up to 10 years or so. But again, if you don't mind some oak influence in your wine, there's definitely no reason you can't enjoy it immediately. If you're interested in wine recommendations, wine collecting strategies, and learning more about wine, please do subscribe to my channel. I've been collecting wine for more than 15 years and also have a level 4 diploma from the WSET. So I have both formal certification as well as substantial practical knowledge from the School of Hard Knocks. One of the questions I'm asked most frequently is if I can identify the name of a quality Burgundy that sells for around $50 per bottle. I've previously done a video where I recommend 10 such wines, but if you're looking for a fresh recommendation, I definitely have one for you that I'm sharing with you today. And I recently tasted this wine at a Louis Jadot luncheon at Somm. This is a wine that was included in a flight of 3 Louis Jadot wines, all of which were red Burgundy. And despite the fact that this wine sells for half as much as another Premier Cru that was in the lineup, this wine definitely stole the show. And so the next cellar defender is the 2020 Domaine Prieur-Brunet Santenay-Maladiere Premier Cru, which sells for around $50 per bottle. This is a rich, full-bodied, opulent expression of Santenay with a dark fruit profile. Descriptors included black cherry and plum, but there was also an earthiness, a spiciness, and some minerality to this wine. This is a wine that's well structured and will age beautifully, but it's already extremely enjoyable, as evidenced by its performance at the recent luncheon. This next cellar defender is another wine that I tasted at Somm. One of my biggest takeaways from Somm is that Australia really showed out. There were a number of extremely impressive Australia wines that I tasted there. Vasse Felix was established back in 1967 and is one of the founding estates in Margaret River. Vasse Felix has a highly acclaimed Chardonnay called Heytesbury that sells for around $90. But this cellar defender is the Vasse Felix Chardonnay from Margaret River, which sells for only around $45, or half the price of the Heytesbury. The Vasse Felix Chardonnay from 2020 is highly acclaimed and received favorable scores from a number of critics. This is a Chardonnay that's made in a traditional Margaret River style, so it has both power and elegance, as well as some impressive complexity. This Chardonnay has around 13% alcohol by volume, and the fruit comes from a selection of Vasse Felix's premier plots. This wine is matured for 8 to 10 months in a mix of new and used French oak, and after that it spends some additional time in the tank prior to being released. If you prefer a fresh, vibrant Chardonnay, you can enjoy this one immediately or within the first 5 years, but if you treasure complexity, you can definitely let it age longer than that and enjoy it from years 5 to 10 or so. Lodovico Antinori helped to establish iconic Super Tuscan producer Ornellaia, but he later sold his interest. Then, in 2001, along with his brother Piero, Lodovico Antinori helped to establish Tenuta di Biserno, which has become an esteemed Italian producer in its own right. Biserno is ideally and idyllically situated in the upper Maremma area bordering Bolgheri with stunning views of the Tyrrhenian Sea. Biserno has a highly acclaimed flagship wine, which is also named Biserno, that is a Super Tuscan blend which competes with the likes of Sassicaia and Ornellaia, but which sells for right around $200 per bottle or so. Fortunately, however, they also make an outstanding entry-level wine that sells for only around $30 per bottle and which makes an excellent cellar defender. The fruit for this entry-level wine does not come from the Biserno estate, but rather from a nearby estate that's called Campo di Sasso. The soils at Campo di Sasso are very different and consist primarily of sand and clay. These soils help to produce a wine that's extremely approachable and ready to enjoy immediately. I'm talking about the Campo di Sasso Insolio del Cingale Toscana IGT. This wine has been a consistent performer that's been well received by critics for the past few vintages. It's a blend that consists primarily of Syrah and Merlot, but it can also include some Cabernet Sauvignon, Petit Verdot, and Cabernet Franc. This wine is already extremely approachable with tannins that are very well integrated. You can enjoy it immediately on a pop and pour, and you don't need to age it at all. I was extremely impressed with this wine, and I actually enjoyed it more than the second wine from Biserno, which cost more than twice as much. So you really can't go wrong with this wine if you're looking for a wine that you can enjoy right away.